Welcome to the Capital Integrative Health Podcast, a podcast dedicated to transforming the consciousness around what it means to be healthy and understanding the root causes of both disease and wellness. I am Dr. Andrew Wong, co-founder of Capital Integrative Health, an integrative practice committed to expanding access to holistic root cause medicine to the global community. Today we are joined by Kari Willford. Kari is a licensed massage therapist and an expert-level John Barnes Myofascial Release practitioner who has been with CIH from the very beginning. Kari has an additional background in personal training and yoga. She helps her clients with many conditions, including chronic pain, headaches, TMJ, fatigue, anxiety, and much more. We are excited to bring you a conversation today about how bodywork and integrating bodywork into your care plan can up-level your wellness. All right, welcome, Kari, to the podcast, and great to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we want to first talk about how you got started with working at CIH. How did you kind of know about this place? And we know that you also know Liz Bear. How do you know Liz and everything?
Yes, Liz and I worked together in a local spa, and she had this dream of creating a collaborative wellness center. And we worked together for a couple years, and I believe she met you during that time.
And when I met her, I knew right away that she is awesome. And then she told me about you. And I knew that from knowing her and her being awesome, I knew that you'd also be very amazing too. And that's been totally true. So
Thank you.
It's great having you here for, this has been about 7 years now we've been here at CIH. So it's been pretty amazing. We've kind of moved from different places. Now we've expanded here at Sangamore. Tell us how you got into bodywork a bit. First of all, maybe what is bodywork for the listeners? Because I think bodywork can mean different things. Different people might think about massage, myofascial release. We can get into that a bit more. But just what is bodywork and then how you got into it, I think.
Sure. Bodywork is just a hands-on technique, and it can mean massage or it can be more of a just tissue manipulation. I specialize in myofascial release, the John Barnes approach. So that's a hands-on technique without any oils or lotions. And I take the tissue into stretch or compression, so I'm pressing into the tissue for a sustained period of time.
Okay. And massage typically does use more oils and lotions, you would say? Got it. Okay. Yes. And how did you get into bodywork? And then specifically, how did you meet John Barnes and get into that specific subspecialty of MFR?
Sure. So my background is in fitness and health. I taught health and physical education in a high school system for a couple of years, and I knew I didn't want to continue with that. So I had explored different areas of personal training, and I also did that for a couple of years. And my sister actually was the one to get me into bodywork. She was also going to school at that time. She kept on talking about it. It was very intriguing to me. I've had a lifelong interest in fitness and the body and nutrition, even as a teenager. So after a couple of years of practicing traditional massage techniques in a spa setting, I was having my own aches and pains. And then the therapist that I would seek out help, he was trained in myofascial release and the John Barnes approach.
And that was in Arizona, right?
Mm-hmm, correct. And so after my first couple of classes, I knew that this was it for me. This was what I wanted to learn and what I wanted to give to people.
If you don't mind me asking, what did you feel during that time you were recovering and healing on your own with that technique, with the practitioner helping you? Mm-hmm. How was that different than, say, a traditional massage kind of therapy?
Yeah, it was quite different, actually. It was more about maintaining alignment. It helped me heal emotional pain. I was going through some emotional issues at that time. And I had a lot of stress and anxiety and depression, as well as a lot of physical back pain just from the repetitive nature of my work.
Got it.
So it helped me free up a lot of tension.
Yeah. And freeing up a lot of tension also, it sounds like from what hear you saying, it frees up some bandwidth as well, physically, but also mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
It's a beautiful aspect of this integrative modality called Myofascial Release is that it's this combination of really the body work, but we also know that since the body and mind are connected and really are synergistically united, there's a lot of, I think one of the quotes that I often, and I don't know who said this, but this idea of the issue is in the tissue, right? And so moving that, maybe you taught me that.
I think it was way before my time.
Okay. Nothing is original, right? But someone taught us this thing.
Right.
So, if tissue gets stretched and released and the tension is released and the alignment is maintained, then a lot of times the issues in the tissues, whether they be physical or mental, emotional, spiritual, can get more balanced. Is that
Absolutely.
Pretty much?
And then our energy can flow smoothly. Like
So
wherever,
kind of like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Wherever we're putting our intention, we can put more of our energy that way versus trying to maintain the other states that we're in.
Actually, kind of reminds me of acupuncture. A couple of parallels there is that your sister kind of introduced you a bit to some body work, and my sister also introduced me to acupuncture, and she took the acupuncture course before I did. So then I was like, oh, this is something really interesting. She's like, you got to do this, and it was amazing. So, and then with acupuncture too, there is this idea of stuck energy or stuck chi, and you have the acupressure points that then can relieve that. So it sounds like it may be. Are there any parallels or similarities there?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We're looking for adhesions or restrictions, and it's the same. The energy can't flow through the body, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional.
Yeah.
Quite the same.
I kind of want to take a little bit of a forest view about bodywork for a second, because right now we're in the COVID pandemic still. It is hopefully, thankfully cases are declining, but there's still cases and everything. And we're wearing masks and we're also social distancing. And, hopefully people are being safe and, staying healthy and not getting sick and stuff. But one of the things that I've noticed during the pandemic is that people have lost a sense of touch. People have lost a sense of like touching other people, family, friends, even, neighbors, people you might shake hands with. Normally, it's just like you're going to say hi to them like that, right? So how important is touch to our overall health and well-being?
I think it's essential. Yes, as humans, we need that. We need hugs. We need community. We need just to be with one another.
Right. And even, and I guess there's different, there's like 5 or even maybe 6 senses, right? There's more sense. But, but of the senses, touch is certainly, at least in my opinion, one of the most important, if not the most important. Just from a visceral perspective, to know that you're connected to others, that you're, when you touch the ground, you're connected to the earth, whether your feet are connecting, your hands are connecting. When you touch someone else, it's like you're connecting with that person on a physical level, but also an energetic level.
Absolutely. I mean, look at babies. Like, they have to be held and they have to be nurtured in that way to grow.
And I believe that, we obviously grow and evolve as humans, but certain primal aspects, certain basic aspects, I think are continuing, or continual needs throughout life, including the need to touch and be touched and to kind of feel that connection with others.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Well, in terms of body work or other aspects of your professional life, what do you enjoy most about what you do?
What I enjoy most is seeing the light return to people, seeing them, understanding that they're capable of healing themselves and cultivating that awareness within. I'm just a facilitator. I help out, but the client on the table really does all the work. They feel into their body, they feel the stuck areas, and they come back home, basically. I really enjoy watching people heal.
And I want to take a deep dive in that, because that's such an important statement. Is, in traditional healthcare, sort of this traditional medical model, it's very external driven. It's like, you go to a doctor, you go to any practitioner, and they'll give you some external treatment to take, and it's almost like a very passive way of kind of healthcare, which is needed for a lot of cases. I talked about this a bit with Liz too, but activating that innate wise healer inside, it sounds like is what bodywork and MFR is doing, which is amazing.
Yes, it is.
How long does that take for people to, activate? Probably different time frames for different people.
Absolutely. Everybody's completely unique, depending on their story, and the history they've had. And many people have been on this healing journey and have tried many, many different modalities. So they're very familiar or have healed pieces of the puzzle, but not the entire thing. And some people are brand new to healing, so they have to gain that trust within themselves.
And it's not a linear road, it sounds like, either.
No, it's completely chaotic.
Yeah, chaotic, circular. And so the other thing is that patience may be a virtue here, right? Because if someone's having a chronic issue, chronic illness, or chronic pain, and, hopefully they understand that it's not a linear road. It's not like a very time limited, like you're going to be healed in X amount of time, because it's really about their own body, mind, and spirit.
Right.
And how long that takes them, which is sort of not totally predictable.
Correct. Not totally predictable. Okay. And once you start healing some other things, it really is a puzzle in my mind. Some things influence others, and we don't necessarily know where the connections lie.
I remember reading something about how the body is our best friend. It's like the body is telling us through symptoms, right? Because when we think about traditional medicine, let's say, the symptoms are always, let's suppress the symptoms. Let's actually not let them say their piece, even though what they're actually trying to do is help us. Mm-hmm. So what is your view of symptoms as a whole, and what are they saying to us?
So if we can listen to, the gentle symptoms, the tightness, the tension, maybe the pain before it becomes inflammation or before it becomes chronic or before something severe happens, ideally that's the best case scenario,
Mm-hmm. Catch it early.
Okay. Of course. Okay. And it's always easier to be in a state of prevention versus fighting off something chronic.
So we'd rather listen to a whisper or someone in conversation versus screaming.
Absolutely.
Is that what you say? Okay.
And so what do we need to do? For that, we need to create a space to listen to our body, take a walk or do some breathing or meditation practice.
Yeah. And going back to the definition of bodywork, we can even say, let me know if this makes sense, but, bodywork could be things that people do with a practitioner like yourself. Could it be also things they do with themselves, like at home?
Absolutely. Okay. Yes. Myofascial self-care just can be a lengthened stretch. So I think traditionally we've been taught, stretch for 10 seconds or 30 seconds, but the myofascial technique, the Barnes approach myofascial technique is to hold for 90 seconds to 2 minutes and beyond. So similar to yin yoga.
90 seconds to 2 minutes, got it. Okay.
That's when the start of the release actually happens. So being in a stretch, not the end range of a stretch, but just where we're starting to feel the stretch. And then as we soften and hold the stretch for a longer period of time, then we can feel it deeper.
Okay.
And then we can take the stretch further into the range of motion versus starting at end range.
So the end range would be what time period?
Well, we don't know if we get to end range.
Okay.
The
start of the end range is like 90 seconds to 2 minutes.
No, we don't want to start at an end range. We just want to start at where we first begin to feel the stretch and hold that for a period of 90 seconds to 2 minutes for the releases to start happening. So people can definitely take care of themselves by spending a lengthened amount of time in stretches or using a foam roller or a ball with the same principle, just softening in versus forcing or pushing. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Just to go back to the forest view a bit on that, just in case listeners not sure about this, what is myofascial release and what is fascia? Let's start with some basics there.
Sure. Let's start with fascia. Fascia is connective tissue. It's from the top of our head all the way to the bottom of our feet.
I love that word, by the way.
What, fascia?
It just sounds really cool. Yeah.
Yes, it does. It's a continuous tissue. It's in between organs. It separates cells, but it's one it's one organ, basically.
Throughout the whole body?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any part of the body where there's not fascia?
No.
No. Amazing. and of course the skin is also on the whole body, but the skin and the fascia are different. Would you say?
I wouldn't say. I think you can have adhesions all the way up to the epidermis.
To the epidermis. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that a lot of people have skin issues, and a lot of people are, wondering how they can have healthier skin. Would you say that helping the fascia is another way to potentially help skin health?
If skin health is, if the issues are being exacerbated by lack of lymph flow or blood flow, I think that opening up the fascia can
be
help
helpful.
with
Got it.
skin.
Great. And then what is myofascial release as a way to treat the fascia and fascial dysfunction?
Myofascial release, again, the Barnes approach is hands-on approach with no oil. It's a sustained stretch or compression into the tissue. Again, I use 90 second to 2 minutes at least to start the release. We look for misalignment and try to achieve balance.
Got it. And then I think this is a good segue to talk about John Barnes, since this is a very expert in the John Barnes approach. First of all, who is John Barnes? How did he come up with the specific MFR technique himself and all of that?
John Barnes is a physical therapist from Pennsylvania. He has 2 treatment centers, one in Malvern, Pennsylvania, and one in Sedona, Arizona. He's been doing this technique for, I believe, close to 50 years. He also discovered this through his own healing and recognized that compression in his injury made it feel better and changed the surface underneath the pressure. So he started with his own healing and then applied it to his practice.
A lot of breakthroughs happen with personal experience, personal healing, and it sounds like that's the case for John as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And you as well, it sounds like, with getting involved with MFR. So the fascia is really going up and down the whole body, the entire, like all the organs, etc. How does myofascial release treat the whole body? And I guess one of the questions I have is, if you treat one area, how does that affect other parts of the body, or does it, or is it just more local in that situation?
I think it can be local, but I think it's rare that it would be just a local treatment versus, if you're wearing a sweater, you can imagine a knit sweater and you're pulling on one aspect of it. It's going to change the global perspective of all the tissue.
Because
and
the fascia is communicating. It's like a network, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Got
absolutely.
it. Okay. And I just remember that from acupuncture training. It's like, it's sort of like, if you one area of acupressure, acupuncture, it'll kind of affect the entire network in a way. You might, someone might have pain in one area, but my understanding is you could have, the root cause of it be there locally, but it could also be somewhere distant and causing pain in that area. That may not be the same area that someone might feel discomfort.
Yes, exactly. And that's why we as therapists have to always look holistically.
Got it. And what conditions do you find myofascial release to be helpful for? Although it seems like if it can treat the whole body, there can be many, many conditions for that.
Absolutely. Back pain, neck pain, TMJ, even anxiety, depression, fatigue, any type of joint pain. Yeah.
I mean, the fascia sounds like one of the master, organs of communication, where the arteries, the lymph, flow, the nerves are there. So if that is dysfunctional, then really any system, any organ or any system could also be potentially dysfunctional.
Yes, exactly.
Really affects everything. So like you said, I mean, the things that are more intuitive, things like sciatica and neck pain and back pain and headaches, and that kind of makes sense from a very visceral physical level. But then these other issues like anxiety or depression and emotional issues, it sounds like that also can be affected by the myofascial release. Do we think it's from more of an energetic unblocking, or is there some other mechanism there?
Yes, if emotions aren't fully processed and we're still holding on to that stress, myofascial release can provide a way out of that.
How long are the sessions usually with clients?
Typically 60 minutes. I occasionally do 90-minute sessions.
60 to 90 minutes. Okay. And then is there anything, because I know with a lot of treatments, it's sort of like people just kind of show up, they get on the table, you treat them, let's say. Is there anything people need to do to prepare for a session, an MFR session?
It's always best to be in a good mindset.
Okay.
Taking a few breaths, slowing down. It takes a little bit longer to get in the treatment if someone is still working in their mind or still in traffic.
So put the briefcase down, put the other issues down, put any sort of stressful situations, just kind of let it go, release, put it in the backpack, set it down, that kind of thing. Got it.
So I always start off with doing a couple breaths anyways and letting people come into the room and then come into their body and then settle into the table anyways. Yeah.
I mean, traffic can be very disturbing to the nervous system, right?
That's right.
Especially in the DC area, right? Yeah.
It's never ending.
Yes. And then how do you find unreleased emotions or trauma showing up in your work with clients? This is a really important point here.
As humans, I think we're all subjected to trauma. It's just a part of life. So it shows up all the time. It's not always massive or violent type of trauma, but we're living through a global pandemic, so it's present every session. And so
yeah, and I guess the other question is that a lot of people are very vociferous. They're very expressive about their emotions. They like to talk it out. Other people are not. So I'm wondering, in terms of trauma or unreleased emotions, is it better to talk it out, to express it with people, whether it's a friend, a therapist, or is it better? Some people actually hold it in and try to process it internally. Have you found one way to be better than another? It's kind of depend on the person.
I think it's completely unique to the person.
Yeah.
Whatever the need is in the moment. I think we all have different ways of processing it.
As long as it can be effective and it can actually be processed.
Oh,
it
absolutely.
Sounds like, got it.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
We don't want to let it just sit there either way.
No, because that's what contributes to the stress and anxiety and depression.
Right. So if people do it externally or internally, as long as they're processing it, there's some value in that in terms of healing.
Yes, absolutely.
Got it. And then obviously, after a session, then, I think some people may ask this is there a certain number of sessions that you would recommend for someone in a series, or it kind of depends on each person, each situation?
It's very, a very basic principle of giving myofascial release 3 to 5 sessions. But I think that's very general. It depends on what's going on completely.
Okay. And we are at an integrative center here, and amazing to have you here working alongside. How do you see Bodywork overall, integrating with healthcare in general, and how fitting in there?
I think it's a crucial part of healthcare.
Yes, agree.
I think Bodywork can create awareness within our own bodies and awareness to what is really going on, and that's empowering. It can be used to empower people, and that's what's extremely helpful for people to heal these chronic conditions, as the empowerment within.
Yeah. I feel like there's something that is very epidemic nowadays, and probably throughout most of recorded human history, which is an overthinking syndrome. Where we have these thoughts and emotions that tend to often dominate or steer our lives. So, getting back into the body is actually something that's very real, very solid in a way.
Absolutely.
It's very grounding.
Grounding and centering. And finding ourselves. Yeah.
It's a great treatment for anxiety, for sure. But I think, a lot of us do have these kind of thoughts. And I read somewhere that there's 60,000 thoughts floating through our head every day.
Yeah, and how many of them are the same ones over and over?
Exactly.
It's a very high percentage. So I find that
it's a great point.
Again, with grounding and reducing anxiety is just, we want to remember to stay in the present moment, and that we're okay in the moment.
Yeah. rather than looking to the past or the future and that kind of thing, right? And then is there anything people can do at home to take care of their bodies, some sort of self-care for myofascial release?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, again, with the breath work, I think that's very important. Doing some gentle stretches, taking their time in each stretch, and taking time to breathe in each stretch, listening into the body and feeling what's tight, never forcing the body to go into a deeper stretch than what feels right.
Are there any specific stretches that you recommend for, say, neck or back pain, or is it kind of more, people kind of feel intuitively what they might be, having a stretch created from their movement? Are there specific things?
I think that's a great idea. Stretch created by movement. And again, with going really slow into it and slowing down and breathing into it. And wherever the tightness starts to speak up, just holding that.
So maybe dancing it out, you're saying.
Dancing it out is always great.
Slow dance or a pop music, either way, yeah.
Or there's a technique called rebounding or jiggling.
Ah, okay.
Moving to rhythm.
So jiggling isn't just for Jell-O then?
It's not.
Okay, good. That's good. I knew I was going to throw that in there, right? You knew that. So jiggling, let's talk about jiggling or rebounding. What's the difference there, and what does that mean exactly?
The difference between each other?
Rebounding
and rebounding?
Yes.
I wouldn't differentiate between them.
Okay, great. So they're moving the fascia, essentially.
Yeah, so you're creating a bounce in the joints. You can do it with music to, again, take our mind out of that.
My mind was going to some bouncy music there, yes, with the rebounding.
You can use bouncy music. You can use whatever music you like. But so we can center ourselves and, again, listen to our body and create a bounce in the joints.
So rebounding is using a trampoline or something else?
You can, but you can also just do it on the floor.
Okay, so like jumping.
Sure.
What other things?
It doesn't have to be so... it can just be very small movements. It doesn't have to be jumping.
Okay, so like micro movements and jiggling. Got it.
Yes,
okay.
and it depends on what the person is feeling, and then likely those movements will change direction and intensity. So maybe if we start jumping, then it'll go into more of a softer movement, or vice versa.
I like jiggling too because it's very, I think it's like the kind of the ragdoll thing where you're kind of like doing all this with your hands and your head and like let everything kind of release a bit.
Shaking it out.
And
letting the lymph move too, which is extremely important, especially now when we're in this pandemic too, because as you know, our lymph is the detoxification system, and sedentary lifestyles don't allow our bodies to detox.
So for those who are listening out there who are working or they're at their desk, whether it's sitting or standing, in a way we know that standing can be helpful, or like kind of alternating between sitting and standing. But then we also know if we're just in one position, even if it is standing for a long period of time, then that's not really great for the lymph system either.
Right. The lymph system moves with manipulation, which would be a very light massage or skin brushing, or movement.
Movement. Okay. So jiggle during your Zoom meetings, everyone, right?
That's right.
Basically? Okay.
Yeah, get everybody to jiggle during the Zoom meetings.
During the Zoom meetings. Okay, all right. We'll definitely work on that. Well, we can talk about some closing questions here. Sure. Do you have a morning routine? And if so, if you don't mind sharing what that is for the listeners.
Yes, I do have a morning routine, and it's essential to my well-being. I truly believe that. I write down my gratitudes for the day. I focus on my intentions for the day. I do some breath work, nothing too complicated, just mindful breathing. And I walk for 30 to 45 minutes. Any
shaking or jiggling there or anything like that?
I don't have that included in the moment, actually.
So getting off the right foot, and then maybe after that, the right fascia could be helpful. Not planned. It was just part of the conversation. I think that's great. A morning routine is really great. I've been doing this Miracle Morning routine for like over 500 days now. It's really great.
Wow, fantastic.
I'm doing some jiggling with it. I'm trying to incorporate some of that. Definitely some movement. Walking is great, and getting outside. We're really meant to be outside, get the fresh air and things like that.
Yes,
see the sun,
so
all that stuff.
Yeah, connect with nature. I do like to incorporate jiggling between my clients to move a little bit if I've been in a position for the same time.
And in terms of the energy that we get through the whole body, including the fascia, we know that there's this concept that is very revolutionary sounding, but it's also very basic, called earthing. The idea of connecting the earth with our bare feet or with cotton socks or something like that, also called grounding. How do you feel about earthing or grounding and how important that is?
I think it's really important.
To the fascia and beyond. Yeah.
Just our connection, which, I'm sure our fascia appreciates.
Yes, exactly. And do you feel like we're getting enough of that nowadays, like earthing or grounding? I guess some people might be.
Some people might be. Gardening, and I think that there's a lot of people doing more of that type of work or appreciating fresh foods and things like that. But that's different than, sitting or getting our feet into the earth.
Yeah.
Likely we're not getting enough of that.
Yeah.
We have busy lives at this point, so
we're just kind of to bite the bullet in the fall and winter and get those bare feet out there on the cold ground, or they do have the earthing mats and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
You can do it indoors. Yeah. Might try that out.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So what book or podcast besides the CIH podcast, of course, are you enjoying the most right now?
I really enjoy Ancestral Knowledge. Have you checked that one out?
Love that. Yeah. We're going to try to get them on the podcast very soon, actually.
That would be
honestly.
fabulous.
Yeah. Amazing.
I listen to that one weekly. I do like the Doctor's Pharmacy, Dr.
Hyman. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great one.
Jonathan Faust.
Yeah.
He's local, but
he's local,
and he's fabulous.
He has a podcast, or
he has a podcast.
Okay, good. I'll check it out. Yeah.
I like to listen to one called Song Exploder.
Podcast?
Not health related,
okay.
But I like to listen to the creative process of things. I feel like it also helps me in my work. Listen to other people's creative way.
Song Exploder. It sounds like something you would do with jiggling, but
it's a podcast about how songs are created.
Okay.
So they pick a specific artist or song, and then they go like track by track and discuss what inspired them and what they were thinking when they included specific tracks.
Cool. What kind of music do you like, or do you play music yourself?
I don't really play music. I learned to play violin recently, within the last 5 years. I wouldn't claim to be a musician.
Well, you're clearly a violinist playing it for 5 years. Yeah, that's amazing.
I listen to all types of music.
Yeah, that's great. And what do you do every day to cultivate joy, which we know is really important for the fascia of the whole body as well?
Speaking of music, I listen to music purposefully.
Your tracks are great in the clinic here. And anything that you recommend, maybe any artists or anything off the top of your head that may cultivate that stillness, that inner wisdom, that deeper level of grounding or healing? Any of your favorites?
Tracks?
Well, artists or tracks or whatever.
Artists or tracks.
Whatnot.
If I'm needing grounding, I usually tend to go to drumming.
Yeah.
Or I do like tracks by Deva Premal or Wah. But it doesn't have to be that style of music. That's more like kirtan.
Okay.
Trevor Hall.
Great. We'll have to get the spelling of that later and put it on there. Thank you. And so, Kari, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's been an amazing conversation. Lots of fun, too. We talked about your cat some and certainly Myofascial Release and overall health related to Bodywork. How can listeners learn more about you and work with you?
I do have a website. It's myofascialreleasedmv.com.
Okay.
And you can email me via the website or just my email here at CIH. It's kwilford@cih.org.
Okay, so your email, myofascialreleasedmv.com, right? Okay, great. Well, Kari's an amazing healer, myofascial therapist. Highly recommend her.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kari, for being on today.
Thank you, Dr. Wong.
And thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. And if you enjoy this conversation, please take a moment to leave us a review. It helps our podcast to reach more listeners. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next conversations. And thank you so much for being here and spending your valuable time with us today.